to you. Good morning, and God loves you. Woo, woo. All right, that's right. Welcome to Free to Hope Conversation with Edwina B. As you can see, I am cuckoo for Cocoa Pops and love it. That is what I am affectionately known as. I believe I gave that name to myself or I adopted it by somebody saying, you're a cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. Either way, you're right. Why? Because my God, my creator, laid me down last night, had the angels watch over me, and then allowed them to touch me with the gift of life this morning. So you doggone right, I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Pops because I'm alive. I was chosen and I'm happy. I am so happy to have been chosen to rise. But it is for a reason. And that is why I'm sitting here before you right now, this moment that will never, ever, ever come again. I am guided, directed, ordered to seek his knowledge, his strength, his wisdom, so that I can give it to you as he gives it to me. So that's why it's free to hope. From recovery, we emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally, okay? And so, with that being said, let me ask you as I sip a cup of coffee. You see my attire this morning? I'm going swimming. I'm taking some of our participants at Divine Light swimming this morning, right? And guess what? I'm going to start exercising this arm, right? Because this shoulder, I should say. And what better way to exercise than in the water? So you see me in my bathing suit this morning, okay? So let me take a drink of coffee and ask you, how was your day yesterday? How are you feeling right now? Are you grateful in spite of to be given one more day, to wake up breathing, having access and utilization of all your limbs, your senses, right? Are you grateful? I have been given one more chance this day to get it right, to please God in any way, shape, form, or fashion by being of service to one other person. As many as you can, but at least one other person. And I know now we will be truly compensated. Why? Because we are doing his will and not our will. So we're going to be talking about, and we became willing. See how the Holy Spirit just flowed into the topic? That's why I yield, y'all. That's why I yield. As cuckoo for Cocoa Pops as I am, I'm transparent and I'm authentic. You get that? You better. All right, so let's do a recap of what's going on. We have one more week before my niece's /sister memorial service and repast. Now, let me share something about me, okay? Now, I've been charged with writing my sister's /niece obituary, right? So I would just love, and I do, call her Helen. But there's something significant when I say sister/niece. Now, many of you heard the story that how she was brought into the world and by whom and under what situations and circumstances. And if you don't remember, well, my mother was raped as a teenager, had a child by her stepdad or his brother, and it wasn't her husband, my dad. When my dad found out, he set out on this revengeful road, unknowingly to any and all of us, right? And so, years later, keeping the family secret, not knowing what happened, how it happened, who it happened to, or that it was even going on. Secrets. Are you willing to be set free and disclose the secrets that have kept you and members of your family sick for the sake of saving face? Are you willing to break the cycle of dysfunction by keep perpetuating lies? Well, the buck stopped here with me. Yes, it did. And so y'all know that I shared with y'all because my sister Deborah is not my father's biological child. Therefore, he began to implement his revenge, right? And started incesting her, molesting her, okay, whatever, at the age of 7 till she was 21. Okay? And from that act of abuse, Helen was born, okay? And our family automatically says that's our niece because Deborah's our sister. And we did kind of wonder throughout the years why Deborah looked different or not similar to us, her other siblings. And we just felt and thought what mommy said, that she looks like her mother, which would be Deborah's grandmother. Okay, so we took it as face value. Another lie. But anyway, and so Michael Mosley, bless his heart, and Deborah, were, doing their thing back in the day, and it was assumed that Michael Mosley was Helen's father. Okay, y'all got that? So you see how you have to unravel this thing? And so for years, this lie went on. But 2 people, 3 people, maybe 4, really knew the truth, right? And so a DNA was taken because Deborah wasn't sure. Michael wasn't sure, but he supported Deborah the whole way and found out that Helen was not his biological child. Okay. They vowed to keep it a secret, not to tell anybody. So the lie continues to be perpetuated. Okay. All right. So then, years later, my sister Deborah, Helen's mother, had a breakthrough, and at the detox that she was here in Delaware at the age of 40-something years old. She carried that from the time she was 7 to 40-something years old, right? And she disclosed finally the truth. Okay, so all that to say, I'm the one in recovery. I'm the one practicing principles, tools, and resources. I'm the one who will challenge anything and anybody. And yes, I went to my mother, I went to my father, and I began to ask questions. And for whatever reason, they lied. I believe my sister Deborah. Okay? And so now that Helen has transitioned, my dad has transitioned, my mom has transitioned, even Deborah has transitioned, right? And so now I get to tell the truth that in her obituary, you will see my sister Deborah mentioned as her mother, and Edward C. Hall Sr., my father, is Helen's father's too, right? I did add that Michael Mosley and his family supported Deborah and Helen throughout the years. But I first had to convey this information to one of the family members of Michael Mosley because they had no clue. See, when you are willing to tell the truth, when you are willing to shed light on darkness, it's not to point the finger, it's not to blame anybody. If anything, it's designed to set us free. The truth will set you free. So I chose one family member and I had a conversation with her because I didn't want to publish anything without me letting them know, which is what they call the 8th step, right? Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. I needed to at least tell one family member the truth about who Helen's father was. Okay. After our conversation, she thanked me. She thanked me. She thanked me. Yes, she did. She thanked me. She wasn't angry. She wasn't mad. She wasn't in denial. She didn't call me a liar. She thanked me because nobody in the family ever knew. So now that she knows, and my family members know, even if they are still in denial, I have been able to set the record straight. With care, with love, and with freedom from recovery, we emerge empowered to give hope to others, y'all. Help others prosper equally. Stop telling the lies. Stop perpetuating the lies. Stop covering up the lies. People's lives are at stake. Generations after generations can be affected by a lie and lies. The buck stopped here. So thank you, Helen, for sharing your story. Thank you, Deborah, for sharing your story. Daddy, I understand why you denied it. And Mommy, I understand why you thought you could protect your children. But at the end of the day, everybody was forgiven by each other. And that's the moral of the story. Forgiveness is at hand, provided we are willing to tell the truth. Okay, let's get to our topic today. All righty. Let's see. Woo, Lord, I love you. 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 Okay, so the reading for today comes from Alcoholics Anonymous. We call it the big book, Daily Reflections, right? And we become willing, right? And the quote from page 77 of the big book states, at the moment we are trying to put our lives in order. At the moment we are trying to put our lives in order. But this is not an end in itself. I wonder what's that about. Well, let's see what the person in recovery shared. Y'all with me? Okay. How easily I can become misdirected in approaching the 8th step. I wish to be free, somehow transformed by my 6th and 7th step work. Now, more than ever, I am vulnerable to my own self-interest and hidden agenda. I am careful to remember that self-satisfaction would sometimes come through the spoken forgiveness of those I have harmed is not my true objective. I become willing to make amends, knowing that through this process, I am mended and made fit to move forward, to know and desire God's will for me. Oh, my. Let me stay on the story with my niece, sister, and my dad and my sister, my mom, right, to a certain degree, right? Michael Mosley became an addict. My sister Deborah became an addict, and Helen had her own addiction. Okay. But during the time that I was in early recovery, I remember coming home and visiting my family. And I went by my dad's house and on 22nd Street. And I had Deborah with me, not knowing what was going on, not having a clue. And I was taking Deborah to a meeting. And I said, oh, let's stop to see if Dad wants to go to a meeting. But first we said, let's go have breakfast, right? So still in darkness about the two of them, right? We have breakfast and everything for me is okay. And so we go to a meeting. And who would have ever thought that in a 12-step spiritual program, utilizing these spiritual tools, resources, and principles, that I had the two people who was most affected at that time to a certain degree that produced Helen, right? In a meeting with me, hearing the 12 principles, hearing things within a spiritual fellowship. I felt so honored to have my daddy and my sister at a meeting with me, not knowing, not knowing, not knowing, not knowing. I couldn't even imagine how each of them felt. I just couldn't, right? But for me, it was a beautiful thing because I love my daddy. And me and my sister Deborah was close until I stole from her, right? There were times in our life she would say, I consider you dead. You stole my food for crack, you know. But who would have thought that I would be chosen to take care of her and her daughter, my niece sister, at the end of both of their lives, okay? So I just wanted to interject that, right? So here we go. Let's dissect this baby, all right? So it says here in the beginning, right? I told you I dissect these things. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order. Now, let me ask you, at this very moment, let's stop, pause. Turn it, pause. At this very moment, are you trying to put your life in order? Are you? Do you recognize that your life is out of order? Do you? Do you desire to put your life in order? It starts with the desire. We know we need to put our lives in order, but do we want to put our lives in order? Do we desire to put our lives in order? That is when I believe the student becomes ready so that the teachers can appear. And right now, you may be the student and I may be the teacher engaging in this discussion and asking you at this moment, do you wish to put your life in order? I feel you. I feel you. I know the Spirit is saying, oh, heaven, yes. I want to say something else, but you know. Our humanist says, oh, hell no. No, I like chaos. Right? And we know that born into the world, a world of sin and having a sinful nature, we know that the flesh wants what it wants, when it wants, how it gets it doesn't matter, right? So our humanists may say, nah, I'm good. But inside, we are dying because our lives are not in order. And we may not know exactly why not, but it is from a spiritual angle, a spiritual realm, a spiritual perspective that I are being urged to take a look, to pause and say, I am out of order. my life is out of order. I put a smile on my face. I put a mask on that everything is good, but inside I'm dying because I know my life is out of order. I know it is, but why? How? When did it all happen? Yes. Well, if you have had your knee bowing experience, then I'm not talking to you right now, okay? Those who have not yet had their knee bowing experience, there will come a time, and this may be the seed that is planted to begin to fertilize and begin to grow and begin to seek continued growth, right? So this may be the seed that says, are you now willing? Okay? And so I've learned that at this moment, my life is so much in order, not 100%, because if it was 100%, that means it would be perfect and I would be perfect and I wouldn't need you. I wouldn't need God. Oh, hell to the no. Oh, no. Mm-mm. The spiritual student continues, right, to be ready so that the spiritual teachers can continue to appear, right? And so I know now my life is in order. Why? Because of learning, applying, dissecting, conducting surgery, analyzing, breaking down, evaluating, internalizing these 12 spiritual principles within a 12-step spiritual fellowship that has provided me spiritual experiences. And back then, I thought I was having them, but I was really tripping. Having an unlimited amount of spiritual awakenings that have produced an awesome amount of spiritual breakthroughs. It's because of my knee bowing experience underneath that parked car 34 plus years ago, getting high with and doing all kinds of sexual favors for my own stepson. Yes. And so underneath that parked car, my life was out of order. Dogs and cats get underneath parked cars, not human beings. The enemy that possessed this vessel used me up, spit me out, took me back in, spit me up, but spit me out again, took me back, spit me out again and again and again until such time I can't live like this one more second. My life is completely out of order in all areas of my life. So that cry was, whoever they say you are, I now became willing. Whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. Yes. And this God that I didn't know, and now I am now willing to become, right, to know him, you know what I mean, chose me to stay here for one reason, to seek his will. And he's going to give me the power and the courage and the strength to carry it out so that I can be set free in order to help set others free. Okay, so let's go on to the next sentence, right? I know I dissect this baby, right? Then it says here, but this is not an end in itself. Okay, so at the moment we are trying to put our lives together, this is not an end in itself. Meaning, because we are trying to put our lives in order, it doesn't stop there, right? So whenever you're trying to put something in order, you need this, you need that, you have to get this, you have to get that, you have to read this, you have to research that. So there's some action, there is some footwork that must be done, right? So once I have the awareness and the acceptance to see that my life is out of order, then I have the desire to use whatever I can now. And it may still be, and oftentimes still on the human perspective, right? That's okay, because we got to start where we are. Then as we embrace additional information that's spiritual in nature, then we slowly transition from the human perspective to the spiritual perspective. Okay, so it's the end of us trying, right? But the beginning of us on a new journey to help put our lives in order. Okay, all right. So let's go to the section where the person in recovery shares. Right, he says how easily I can become misdirected in approaching the 8th step. How easily I can become misdirected in approaching the 8th step. So you don't know what the 8th step is, right? So let me tell you. So let me go. Just let me give you a breakdown, okay? The 12 spiritual steps starts with step 1, right? We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. I want you to substitute alcohol for whatever you agree that you are powerless over, and it has made your life unmanageable, okay? So we admitted we were powerless over whatever it is, and that our lives had become unmanageable, okay? That's step 1. That's the only step that we have to practice 100%, okay? Now, am I willing to go to the next step with the realization that I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't control myself. I can't stop drinking. I can't stop this. I am out of control. I am powerless. This thing has got me enslaved. I can't break loose. Once we admit that, not just in our minds, but in our whole existence, underneath that parked car, listen. So, step 2, came to believe a power greater than myself, ourselves, could restore us to sanity, soundness of mind. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Sanity only means soundness of mind, okay? Now, examples of a power greater than me during my journey. First, it was the individuals in my rehab. We're talking about alcohol and drugs now, right? That team of individuals, my psychiatrist, psychologist, my case manager, my counselor, my therapist, all of those individuals were a power greater than me. And all I needed to do was to maintain my willingness to be shown a better way. And with their insight, their instructions, their help, I began slowly to be restored just a little bit to a soundness of mind, because they allowed what I said about my pattern and asked me at the end, did I hear myself tell myself the truth? That was a power greater than me. And then it began to transition to the rooms of alcoholics and the members of Alcoholics Anonymous. I found a loving and caring God in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And now I know who that power that is greater than me. And step 3, it says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand him, right? So that power greater than me that I found in step 2, that elevated to God. And step 3, since I've been sober and since I'm getting better and since I'm being restored to soundness of mind, I want to continue and be willing to make that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, who met me, delivered me, prepared me from underneath that parked car. Oh, yes. Okay. Then we go to step 4, because step 3 says, I can't, he can, and I'll make a decision to let him. Now we get to step 4, where we find out, going back in our history, doing a fearless and searching moral inventory of our attitudes, ideas, and behaviors of how we became the person we are today. How did it happen? When did it happen? Where did it happen? When I think about my sister Deborah, woo! When I think about my dad, woo! When I think about Helen, woo! None of them had the opportunity to do a 4-step inventory, because neither one of them, to some extent, I know my dad and Helen were not in a 12-step program, but I don't even believe Deborah got a chance to do a searching and fearless more inventory. Yes, she shared with me bits and pieces, little here, little there, little here, but she was getting it out. She was getting it out, right? And when she let out the truth down in Delaware City at that rehab, she had a breakthrough physically and spiritually, because she bled for 5 months, holding that secret, holding that pain, holding that anger, right? So for me, no. I need to do a searching and fearless more inventory of what, when, where it happened to become who I became. Oh, show me the way. And that's where, again, I learned where those attitudes, ideas, behaviors, actions, and the Ruiz family calls it domestication, came from, right? All right, so now that I did my 4th step, right, I go to the 5th step. Now, so when I go to the 4th step, this is important because this relates to the 8th step. When I go and do my 4th step, they have us outline, let's say the 7 deadly sins, right? Where did my resentments come from? Where did my anger come from? Where did my, gluttony come from? All that kind of stuff, right? And so when we identified, let's say, the resentments first, right? And so I had to list that I had a resentment. I had a resentment against who? I had a resentment against my mother. Why did you have a resentment against your mother? Well, my mother got too much attention from my daddy, right? I resented the way he looked at her, how he touched her. I resented her because my dad gave her too much attention. I resented my dad too, but he came next, right? So what feelings, what thoughts generated with that resentment? I became angry. I was jealous. I started my self-esteem was low, because why wasn't I good enough for my daddy, right? And then it goes on to say, well, what part did you play in it? I started lying. I started imitating my mom's actions and stuff like that. So you see what I mean? It started with a resentment against who? Why was that resentment developed? How did it affect you, right? And what part did you play in it? So later on, in step 8, I become willing to make amends to my mother. Okay? So that's step 4. Now, in step 5, with all this information, I go to, it says we admit it to God and to ourselves and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So let's take the resentment against my mother that I had, right? So in talking with my sponsor, right, she said, Edwina, okay, I see the resentment. I see who it was against. I see how you developed that resentment initially with your mom. I see the feelings that were generated having that perspective of your mother and your dad and the part that you began to play in it, right? So let's get to the exact nature of your resentment. Let's get to the exact nature of your resentment. Okay, so you had a resentment against your mom because of, right? You became angry with your mom because that. You were jealous of your mom because of that, right? Your self-esteem was shattered because you felt your dad should be looking at you and not your mom. Now these are the levels that we have to get to the exact nature. And so I worked with my sponsor and we kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And we got to the final stage of the exact nature of my wrongs. And it was fear. Fear, y'all. Majority of our character defects, our shortcomings are based on fears. Fearful of what, Edwina? Let's get to the exact nature. That my daddy won't love me, that I won't get enough attention from my dad, that I will never be enough for one man, that my comparison of my self-esteem is based on how I am treated or not treated, fear of what I might get, might not get, what I want, won't get, fear. The exact nature is fear. So once we got to the exact nature, we went to step 6. Step 6 says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So I just used one example of a character defect called resentment, and that's one of the biggest and main one that really controls most of, a lot of our lives, right? And so number 6 says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So now that I know the exact nature is fear, I say in step 6, God, listen, I don't know. But I know you know, because you created me. I know you know, because you created me. Take me as I am. Lord, take me. I'm ready. Take me as I am. The good, the bad, take me as I am. Right? Take me as I am, Lord. Take me as I am. I'm ready for you to do with me what your will is. It's like presenting to God in the form of an onion. Lord, you know each and every layer. I am entirely ready to give all to you for you to remove what stands in the way for me being of service to you and of others. I'm entirely ready. Yes. And step 7, when I recognize my character defects, step 7 says, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. So an example is when I am beginning to feel resentment against somebody or a situation, hit that pause button, because you know where resentments take you. You know what the exact nature of your character defects is, and the exact nature of resentments, where it's going to take you. You don't want to go back to drinking, Pause. Hit that pause button. Change the channel. Stop and ask him, help me remove this shortcoming, because I'm getting ready to go back there. I'm getting ready to do something stupid. I'm getting ready to say something crazy. Yes, I know I can be a resentful person, an angry person, a lustful person, a jealous person, but help me to remove that shortcoming, because I don't want to give anything or anybody that much power ever again to make me go back to drinking. Help me, Lord, remove it. Now we come to step 8. Made a list of all persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Okay, so let's get back to the reading, and I will show you, because it says, now that you know what step 8 is, it says how easily I can become misdirected in approaching the 8th step, right? It says I made a list of all persons I had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So here go how step 4 helps guide me with my step 8. So in step 4, I list the feelings, the resentments, the character defects, right? And I listed the people that I was angry with, resentful with, jealous of, the whole 9 yards. So there are lists of people that I can identify. And those are the people that I begin to put on my list, because I want to become willing to make amends to them, right? So I know what happened, how it happened, where it happened, the part I played in it. So therefore, I need to become willing to make things right for me, right? On my part, clean my side of the street, right? Right? And so all they're asking me is to make a list of the people I had harmed, in what way, shape, form, and fashion, so that when I get to step 9, I'll know what amends to make, direct or indirect amends, okay? And so that's what they mean by I can become misdirected in approaching step 8. But it also says here, right? I wish to be free, somehow transformed by my 6th and 7th step work, right? I wish to be free, somehow transformed by my 6th and 7th step work. So you see how that plays in it, right? By me identifying the character defects, getting to the exact nature, admitting to another person, to God who already knows how to help me navigate that. And then 6, right? Wanting to present myself, give myself to God as I am, for him to do with me as he will. And in step 7, when I know that I am acting out, do I pause and ask for help and humbly ask him to remove that shortcoming? Yes. So now that I have this list, right, to make, and what kind of harm I caused, right? Then step 6 and 7 have prepared me, have transformed me, so I can be open and honest with the list that I'm composing, okay? Because I want to be set free. Now, more than ever, I am vulnerable to my own self-interest and hidden agenda. Woo, woo, oh yeah. Did you hear that? Now more than ever, I am vulnerable, right? I am vulnerable to my own self-interest and hidden agenda. Am I going to leave somebody out? Am I going to lie, manipulate about what I did, what I really thought? Or am I going to set myself free and tell the whole truth? And including the part I played in it. Yes, because my humanists don't want to acknowledge that. But my spirit says you better go all the way. Because that's starting and stopping. No, you will have one and only knee-bowing experience. So I'm going all the way, or I'm not going. So no more self-interest and hidden agenda, right? He goes on to say, I am careful to remember that self-satisfaction, which sometimes comes through the spoken forgiveness of those I have harmed, is not my true objective. Did you hear that? Let's dissect that again. Okay. It says here, I am careful to remember that self-satisfaction, which sometimes comes through the spoken forgiveness of those I have harmed is not my true objective. Wow. Now, if you were like me, I got to keep reading that and keep reading that and keep reading that. So let me take word by word, all right? It says, I am careful, right, to remember what? That self-satisfaction, right, which sometimes comes through the spoken forgiveness of those I have harmed. I am careful to remember, okay, that self-satisfaction, right? I can be satisfied, right? If somebody just comes out and says, they forgive me, right? Particularly of those I have harmed, is not my true objective, right? I don't want it for the purpose of self-satisfaction. Okay, so now I understand a little better, right? And so now he goes on to say, right, I become willing to make amends, knowing that through this process I am mended and made fit to move forward, to know and desire God's will for me. Okay, so let's go back to this one. I become willing, not just to accept somebody's forgiveness, right? So because in step 8, I identified, no, in step 4, I identified I had a resentment, right? I identified who it was against, right? I identified the feelings I was going through about it. I identified how it affected me emotionally, and I identified the part that I played in it, right? And so with that 8th step, I list, let's say my mom, right? And so I don't want my mom just to forgive me, right? I need to make amends to my mother, right? I need to make amends. I make amends by asking her forgiveness, right? And I make the amends by not treating others the same way. Okay. All right. So there's a way that you can make direct amends and indirect amends. It says, I become willing. That's the key. I become willing to make amends, knowing that through this process, I am mended. See, when we become willing to make things right, I become mended. I am working towards wholeness now. I become mended, right? And that's the only way I'm made fit to move forward and to know and desire God's will for me. Okay? Listen, this is 7 something. I got to get out of here and go to my meeting. So listen, I just pray that somebody is getting something out of this. And I do want to acknowledge, I can't see you on Facebook, but yes, Mira Castro, thank you for tuning in. And Facebook, I don't know until later, but thank you for tuning in. And I thank God for allowing me to be a vessel and modeling the fruit of the Spirit, and to be willing to be authentic and transparent, because the Uwees family and the 5 Agreement says we all have been and continue to be in one way, shape, form, or fashion domesticated. And how can we break through utilizing, applying, and practicing 12 spiritual principles, tools, and resources to help set us free. From recovery, I have emerged empowered, and I hope that I'm giving it to you. I hope that I'm giving hope to you. Help others prosper equally. Okay? I love you. You love me. We are one big old family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Ooh. That was a little better, right? What do you think? If it's God's will that we are rejoined tomorrow, I'll be here. And if His will, you will be too. Be of service to others. Be willing today to be kind, to say I love you, to call somebody. Be willing to do the right thing, but make sure it's spiritual in nature. God bless. Lord, I love you.